Okay, just another quick one. I think I mentioned before I was having issues. I didn't think the gearbox was working properly. Now I have put more fluid in that. I did notice before when I'd had it running a while and looked, that was virtually empty. And when it wasn't running, it was just below that middle notch. I put a fair bit in it. And now, when you sort of first start it up and cycle it through the gears, that kind of empties. But then as it warms up, I think this is why people talk about checking it at different temperatures and stuff. Because before it felt like the gears were slipping, like it wasn't pulling in the gears, had no power. I haven't driven it much, so hopefully I don't think I've done any damage or anything. But now I've put that extra fluid in. What I did, I warmed it up on the lift. I had it on the lift level, warmed it up on the lift, and I kept topping it up until it was in the middle of that middle indentation, halfway up the reservoir. And it was in the middle of there when it was pretty, well, not been driving it much, but warmish. And I've driven it up the road tonight, and it does pull in the gears. It's loads better. You know, you can put it in first, and it don't wheel spin off, but it zips off quite nicely, and it changes through the gears a lot better. When I first started it up and looked, the reservoir was kind of empty, which I think is when you first start it up, it must cycle around and empty it out. And then as it had been running a bit longer, the level started to go up. And then when I'd been up and down the road a few times, so it was fairly warm, I'd give it a bit of thraping up and down the road a few times. I came back, and when it was ticking over in neutral, it was in just at the top of that sort of indentation. So I think that's fairly right, which surprised me that it actually went down when I first started and then came back up. So what I'm going to do is when I've driven it a bit more, when I've got it on the road a bit better, I'm going to take it for a good drive and then come back and see where it is. And as long as it's within that sort of cutout, I think that's going to be good. If it's bigger, if it's higher, I'll probably drain some out, because I believe you can do a bit of damage if there's too much in, same as when there's not enough. But there clearly wasn't enough in it. It does sort of pull quite nicely now. I was going to go home in it tonight. I was going to have a play and go home in it tonight, but I realised I forgot to put new wiper blades on, and the wiper blades are shocking, and it's piddling it down tonight. So that's a job for tomorrow. So hopefully we'll be going home in it tomorrow.